Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Pretzel Podcast, a chill talk show where I talk with my colleagues and friends about literally everything. And for today, I'll be joined by my, first Minecraft friend and collaborator, Westie. Westie, say hi.
Hello there.
Alright, to start off, I guess we can start off with the same topic as last time, with Chuck. So why don't you introduce yourself briefly, and then we can discuss how we met and our story afterwards, ever since.
My name is Westie. I met Panda on a server called Footballcraft back in 2014, where I went and joined his national team, Croatia, and played a part in the team for a few years and played in a few World Cups with him. And since I've joined in 2014, Panda kind of took me on under his wing, helped me out, and now I'm managing my own team on Craft called Reunion Club de Francois. And yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Sounds good. Was that actually back in 2014? That's actually now 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years now. FBC. It's been kind of insane this year. It's changed a lot over the past 5 years. I mean, we've had owners change. We've had new arenas. We went back from the Brazil World Cup back in July 2014, and that was a good World Cup. I remember that summer. It was quite a fun one.
Yeah, actually, fun fact for myself, I think I started playing Football Craft like basically a month or two after it got released. I was basically just browsing Minecraft servers at the time. It was summer of 2013, I think. And I mean, the original, I know I was still in like elementary school, and I think it was 2013 actually, like the OG Football Craft. And basically there was no player base at the time. It just started, and I think the summer of 2014 was actually the most fun summer because both the original guys who were there from the start, like for example myself, Matt, Mr. Hardgold was then there as well.
She was there, Soph was there, Daniel, Kat was there, Owen, Trick was there.
Yeah. And then there were also some of the new guys, such as yourself, for example. And I remember that we were having so much fun. We would just queue 5-minute games for like an hour or two, and it was brilliant. And then what was the name of the league back then? Was it just Football Craft League or something?
It was the Minecraft Football League. We had two
MFL
seasons to begin with, and then because I remember you had in the first season there was, I think it might have been season 2. We had we had Orange Army FC, Nemesis FC, Golden Waffle FC, and then we had your team, I think, which was called AC Minecraft. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Because you tried to. I remember you saying something about trying to copy AC Milan.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is that it was actually a team owned by two guys from America. I honestly can't remember what were their usernames, and I was just basically looking for a team at the moment because the whole concept of playing in a league was super fun and sounded super fun to me. And I reached out to them, can I maybe try out for a goalkeeper position, because nobody wanted to play goalkeeper back then, and that's basically how I started, as a goalkeeper.
Nobody does now,
I mean, it's always been like that, especially after, I guess, the term pingu, or guys with a really low ping, who at least used to be OP. I'm not really into Footballcraft anymore because I've got other stuff to do, but I remember back then, if you had ping below 60 ms, you were considered way too OP, I think.
Yeah, I was about averaging 80. I wasn't that exclusive club where they had. I think the good ones. You had MHG back then. He was a wizard, absolute wizard on the ball. Incredible. When he was on NFC, I remember watching. I think one of the first league games I watched was NFC versus GD, and that was really exciting. Was it GWFC? I think absolutely annihilated them. Won 20-0 or something. It was incredible to watch. But yeah, that season ended, and then we moved on. I think to colour teams.
And we were both on Team Red, I think.
Yep, we
And
were both on red.
yeah, and I think that's where everything took off.
Yeah, and then on red, the first game of the season, that was the first game I actually played, which was that was against Green, and I was at centre back for that one.
I was obviously playing goalkeeper as well because I think we had only me in goal. I'm not sure about that.
We had that Callum guy. Can't remember.
Oh,
Callum Jacob,
yeah, I remember. Like, I remember back then because there weren't many goalkeepers. We had like 5 or 6 consistent goalkeepers on the whole server basically, and there were 4 teams in the color league, and like I remember a lot of people were actually putting us in like a contender for the title. Obviously, we. I mean, not obviously, but I remember that we had a good start. Then we ended up like just missing out on finals because of tiebreakers or something, or the goal differential.
I think the last game of the season I think we played, I think it was, well that probably was season 2 I'm thinking, but season 1 I think we did miss out. I can't remember.
I think it was green versus blue in the final. Like I remember everybody kept putting yellow like at the bottom. They had decent players, but definitely they weren't dominant in any position. Then you had red, which was our team, and we were somewhat consistent on defense, but scoring was an issue because if I recall correctly, we didn't really have one of those pingus. And basically, if you want to succeed on Football Craft, you need somebody who can like ping the ball forward. Basically, just hug the ball, run towards the net. And
Yeah,
we didn't have a finisher as well. I think, like somebody who
we
would.
had Super. I mean,
Yeah, we did. He was basically the only guy, and he had to carry the offense. But
yeah. He
if
was
there
kinda
was a
like alone.
situation where when he couldn't play for a week, that would be our complete downfall. We would basically just park the bus for the entire match and wait for an opponent's mistake, try to go for a counter attack. It was basically like, I don't know. Of course, parking the bus in Footballcraft isn't easy, and I remember when we first played against blue team, Hardgold was there. They had Speedy in net as well, I think. Adzi was there on defense.
No,
Like,
and was season 2. He wasn't season 1.
yeah, right. I remember. What was it? Like the blue team was on paper a super team if they had their main roster, like their main lineup for a match.
Yeah, if blue team, whenever they lost one of their starting 4. So on FBC, if you don't know, if you're watching and you have no idea what this is at all.
Yeah, we just started rambling about about FBC without explaining like basics and basic concepts.
So the league back then, it worked with 4 teams. So we had red, green, yellow, and blue, and everyone was seeded into certain colour groups. So, for example, Panda and I were on red, and we're talking about all these other people. So talk about Mr. Heart Gold was put on blue. I think Cap was put on yellow. I'm not sure. Um,
I think he was.
so
Yeah, he
cap
was on
spot
yellow.
softer spot on green, and we had all these, and everyone kind of just grouped together. We worked as teams, we tried our best, and we could only field 4 players every game. So for every game we played, we had 10 minutes to try and a half-time break. So we split that in half, so 5 and 5. Played the game, get on with it, and at the end of it all, everyone plays each other twice in a round-robin kind of format, like the Premier League, but with 4 teams. And yeah, I think Blue won the title that first season, and then the second season they tried to retain it, and they did it again, I think.
Yeah.
It was on that last day I had to play goalkeeper, and that there is footage online.
Yeah, I remember I couldn't play that weekend as well. And basically, back then, I guess goalkeepers were one of the carries as well. So main carries were those pingus. Then you had goalkeepers who could like play consistently and like hold the back line when things got out of hand. And basically because we didn't have our defense was we always had super out on in in the striker position, I think.
Yeah, we did.
And I was always in net. Like those were the only 2 consistent positions we played. And the midfielder and the defender were always whoever was available and online at the time. And that was an issue because if you don't have a consistent defender, for example, that puts a lot of pressure on goalkeepers as well. And I remember being quite like dissatisfied by the situation on the team at the time.
I think you were vocal about it.
Yeah, I was really vocal about it. Also, bear in mind that was 5 years ago, basically. So I was vocal about everything that bothered me, and I think it was basically the last season I played, purely because of the fact that I'm a tryhard at heart, and I felt like I was the only one taking everything seriously and like trying to improve myself, improve the team and everything. Because I did see the potential for maybe being a title contender.
I
But
think we were until the end, and I think when Blue beat us, we just thought,
yeah, because of that match when I couldn't play, that was the point I was getting to. Like, if you drop one of those key positions out of our team, we were done. We would like either just park the bus and concede like, I don't know, 5 goals or so, because we had nobody to get us out of our half, maybe start an attack or something. Or I didn't play in net, which meant that we didn't have a goalkeeper and we would concede like 15 goals or so, because in Footballcraft, especially if you're playing against a team of Pingus, aka players from UK, Ireland, Netherlands, like that area around UK, because Matt was the owner at the time, I think, and he's from England, I think.
yeah, Matt's English.
Yeah, and basically the result of that would be basically kickoffs are like in Rocket League. Everybody starts in their defensive end and they just rush towards the middle, and basically it's more like a face-off instead of a kickoff. And if you had a high ping, it means you would grab the ball before the other guys, and basically there's a thing called reach, and the lower your ping is, the better reach you have.
It's a bit like in PvP. If any of you play Minecraft PvP, I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you do. If any viewers do, it's a bit like that, because you have got a hitbox, and with your left click, when you go to sword or punch or anything like that, it's a lot like that with the ball, and the ball physics, they're effective and they work brilliantly. Not on some of the new editions of the plugin, but yeah, it kind of works in that way. If you have if for example, if you'll break blocks better and you'll hit the ball, you'll have more control over the ball if you put your head down and just keep spam clicking or holding down the left click. And people just slowly over time, they found all these new methods. And
like how to abuse low ping. And it was actually, I think I was the one of the guys who actually figured out how to counter pingus. And basically, when you click the ball, or when you spam click it, the ball would go up, like go in front of you a couple of blocks if you were dribbling on the floor. And basically, there was like a star trail or something, like the trail that goes after a firework rocket when you fire it, and you would just have to watch the trail and not the ball, and just try to predict where the trail is gonna go, like where's the end of the trail gonna be, and just click there and try to intercept it. But because me being from Croatia, I was always at like, I was always over 100 ms when it comes to ping, and I just couldn't do anything with it afterwards. Like I could predict quite well, but I would lose the ball immediately because I'd either have nobody to pass the ball to, or I would just, I don't know, get pinged again by somebody else, because you can't hold the ball for too long if you don't have a good ping.
Yeah. After that MFL season 2, we had, so this was at the time when we had so some of the big players nowadays, so we got, I'll just roll off a few names. So we got Joker, Werau, Robe. Those 3 players, they didn't exist. They did exist, but they didn't join FBC at the time. And these days, they came and they brought new things to FBC, and it's kind of kept it alive, which is fantastic. And
yeah, I'm actually surprised that FBC, for being, I guess, a small community and a small server, it's actually held on for 6 years now, and that just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's surprising. I thought, if anything, at the beginning when I got into FBC quite a bit, I thought sometimes, is this server got a year left? Is this, what happens to the community if the server dissolves? What happens?
Yeah, and it was close to that at one point, and I remember, like, I don't know if the servers, or at least server management, is the same as it was back in the day, but you obviously had to pay money for somebody to host the server 24/7, and I think there wasn't enough income for FBC at one point, and there was basically, like, I don't know, a week they just announced that they were gonna merge the server with somebody else. Basically what that meant was, someone was buying Footballcraft to keep it alive, but they would change the plugin, they would change a lot of stuff basically.
That was at the time of Andy and what's his name, CP, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
They completely ruined it. I'm gonna go straight out here and say they completely ruined the experience of FBC. They ruined
Yeah, that was actually, like, back then they added like creative plots and everything, and I remember myself just spending a lot more time on these plots than actually playing football on there, and because it was kind of unplayable at the time.
Because when Andy and CP, when they changed the plugin, to be fair, they did make an effort towards it. I recommend that.
No, there's nothing to take away from them. They were trying to, like, improve everything, but I guess it didn't work out, or it wasn't as good as everyone thought it would be.
Everyone went to Evo Ball, and that was the thing was. I think there was a Q&A question that came in regarding Evo Ball, and we'll answer that in a bit. But everyone went to Evo Ball, and then Rob A, the guy I talked about earlier, he came back and he just said, I'm going to restart FBC. I'm not approving of this, and he won everyone back, and
Yeah,
then we went
that is actually true. And I remember there were still some funds that were like just to keep Footballcraft alive while it was rebuilding, I guess. And I think it was actually me who came in with a clutch donation.
I
Like,
remember
I remember myself being super proud of that and just bragging to everybody about it.
I remember the.
But that's actually the first time. At that point, I realized that I was quite committed to that as well.
Yeah, Evo Ball was a good server.
Yeah.
Matt and Navy, they knew what they were doing. But
I mean, they had experience from running Footballcraft, and they actually managed to modify the plugin a bit so that it was a bit more fast-paced and a bit more easier on offense if you didn't have a good ping. Because I remember that taking shots was a lot more powerful than on Footballcraft, for example.
oh yeah, the power was just. I love that power. Like
Yeah, if you're a midfielder or a striker, that was basically a huge buff. But
like,
for goalkeepers such as myself, I remember me being not too happy with that because people would still like dribble all the way until like they were 7 blocks between you and the goal was like 7 blocks wide. And if they got too close, there was no way you were gonna save it unless you rush them, which I was doing at the time. But people were actually criticizing me for that because the meta of Footballcraft back then was stand on the goal line, maybe even a bit inside the goal, and just wait until they shoot, then leap for a save. Whereas
in football, that never works. I remember because I was once a goalkeeper playing football. I played for teams and tried things out. And when I did that, I remember playing as a goalkeeper, and the guy in the trainer, he told me, like, saying, go out there and if they come towards you one-on-one, you rush them and you try and get that ball.
yeah, because you're gonna close the angle, like they're not gonna have too many options to shoot at.
If anyone does any science or anything like that, if you look up inverse square law, same principle. When you close down the angle, you lower the level of square law. So, for example, let's say you have one block, and you have that will go up to 4 blocks, then to 9 blocks, then to 16 blocks. Let's say you're standing at 16 blocks, you bring that down. And there's someone coming towards you, if you bring that down to 9 blocks, those extra 5 blocks, 7 blocks around the outside aren't going to be touched. If you bring them in another 5, you take an extra 5 blocks and you're closer to the man. So it's easier to make save, and I think in modern day FPC people have learned that and they've adapted it to their game. And as the playing style of FPC changes,
You cut out for a second?
Oh, yeah, that was me. That was just me. I think it was me stuttering. Yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, is it still there?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty much it, really. But yeah, I'm not sure if did you find anything good goalkeeping and stuff like that?
Back in the day, or like differences from then and now?
Oh yeah, just something like that.
I mean, so I remember that back in the day we started with goals being 5 blocks wide. So the open space between 2 posts were 5 blocks, and it was a bit too hard to score goals. Actually, basically people would just, those pingers we talked about, would just take the ball and ping it in the goal. They would just take the ball and run with it in the net, and that was something that was really pissing me off back in the day. Like, imagine if you're playing a real life match, and You're just faster than everybody. You take the ball, dribble all the way to the net, and then just push both the keeper and the ball into the net and and you run in as well. Like, why though? That
That's
was
that.
that was and people
Yeah.
abused that, especially in the colored season. I remember one of the later matches. It was basically when when I was just starting to get mad at everybody not taking this seriously. Um, I think we were playing against. We were, that was actually our first matchup against the blue team, and we were actually leading at one point. It was 1-0, and then I think I tapped out mid game, or somebody called me on Skype, and the Skype overlay. Back in the day, we were using Skype because Discord didn't exist then, and
Good
the
old
overlay
times, good
popped
old times.
out, and my game just tapped out, and we conceded a free goal basically, and everyone was just spamming the chat. Panda, what are you doing, you idiot? Everything. Like, I was getting tilted already in that match, and I just turned off all chat, turned everything off. I was just super focused on the game because just tying the game against the blue team and at their full force was a huge thing, and I think it would have given us, like, if we managed to hold that tie, I think we would have gone to the finals as well. And
Yeah, I think
because we would have enough points, we wouldn't have to go through um, goal differential at all. And then there were like 10 seconds left, and both Speedy and Hard Gold were just rushing the net, and I got pinged on the goal line, and we conceded a goal. And everyone thought it was 200 IQ, like that play, just thinking of that. But on the other hand, you had me, who had an unfair disadvantage, I guess, and we lost the game because of it. I don't know if the meta is similar right now, but I do remember um, I was on the server like a few months ago, and we were playing like a 5v5 match, and I remember that I was still able to make a couple of saves, and people just become desperate after missing 3 or 4 shots, and they basically just stick their nose down, like look at the ground, spam click, and you get pinged in the net, and you can't do anything about it.
yeah, it's I think the frustration of it after you've if you've drawn out a keeper three, 4 saves, let's say, it will get frustrating, and understandably so. From my experience in being striker and trying to hit the top corner every time, it didn't really hit from stupid angles. I don't know why I did it back then, but fr- from the goalkeepers, I understand why they'd get frustrated from just conceding ping goals, because it's unfair in some cases for them because it's unrealistic. But the determination of a striker to go out there and try and get that crucial goal for a team, that will always be there for a player, and that's just one of those things. Like, when I've been managing recently, players will sometimes try that, and I'll try to encourage it because we need the goal, and that's just something we've always had on FBC. And you can either, it's always going to be a mixed opinion kind of discussion, but when these things happen, you know, it could be in the difference between going a goal up or going a goal down, and that's just something we've always had to deal with, which is unfortunate, but yeah, that's all I've got to say really on that. It's difficult, but
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the things that, like, one of the reasons why I started, like, just observing when everyone would play. I would just watch goalkeepers and look at what do they do in that situation, and then I figured out the anti-ping, or the method I mentioned earlier, that you watch the trail behind the ball instead of the ball, and it did help a bit, but if somebody is rushing at you like head on, you can the only chance you have is to look away from them and then strafe into them. But that also leaves them the option to see where you're intending to clear the ball and just go the opposite direction, and you're either gonna flick the mouse and just start sprinting at them and maybe clear, or you were doomed. And I didn't have the mechanics for that, so I would just keep conceding goals, and people actually started seeing that as my downfall because I was trying to figure out a way how to like go around the fact that I don't have the ping that these guys have. But we've been actually talking about this for quite a while,
Yeah.
so I think it would be a good idea to like maybe move on to other things.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
the next
don't
thing
mind.
I wanted to talk about is the collab I also mentioned on stream lately, and I think I
Yes.
posted on Twitter about it as well. But Westie
You
and
did,
I,
retweeted it.
yeah, I think Westie and I started doing the F1 2012 co-op season. This is actually the first time I'm actually doing something specifically for YouTube and not for Twitch, since I started putting out content. So this is gonna be definitely a new experience, and I think we had 2 recording sessions already, and
Yep, we've done 2 this week. Not this week, last week.
yeah, and so far I'm almost done editing 2 episodes of this, and the first idea was to like record it and then just cut out individual races, but there were some moments that were either too boring, or we would like have, I guess, amplitudes, let's say. I'm
Yeah.
metaphorically speaking, like we had 2 or 3 incredible and funny moments throughout a race, but the rest of the race would just be super boring, and I think it would like just kill the mood of everything. And
Monaco.
yeah, hashtag just Monaco things. But for example, let's take Australia, because I think that's the race that's the most fresh for me, because that's the first race of the season. I already edited it completely, and it was one of the most boring races, in all honesty, I had. But there were a couple of great moments in it as well, and those were the moments that I cut out. But I had like 2 minutes of footage, so I decided that I would take each recording session and just cut out the best moments, and I guess a few points in races, for just the consistency of the race, so that
Yeah.
we don't take like one clip from, I don't know, Bahrain or something.
Yeah, nobody wants to see any of the penalties I received. I
Yeah.
received a penalty in
Yeah.
every race. Up until
I mean,
Canada.
we both did, and you guys are gonna see that as well when I actually do post it on YouTube. When we did a Monaco race, I basically got 5 penalties, and only one of them I find justified. The other were just straight up BS. But enough with the spoilers. It's gonna come out eventually, but what's a good podcast without a bit of self promo? So basically,
of course.
I mean, it's also something regarding this co-op season as well. The I guess the video editing software that I'm using basically just puts a watermark in the middle of the screen whenever I export a video, until I like actually buy the full license or something. So all the donations, if there are any, in the coming months, I will get the software eventually, like before Christmas. That's my assumption. But if you do want to help out, like every donation we get until Christmas will go into it.
Yeah, if you're coming from one of my social media pages or anything like that, Panda basically he needs some help with financial funds. If you are willing to donate to him, please do. It's he's up and coming. He wants to do a lot of stuff with his YouTube and Twitch channels. And to be honest, I hope it all goes really well for him because he deserves it. And we've worked hard this week to try and get some content recorded.
I actually managed to wake up at 9 a.m. once. Like, this podcast was supposed to be recorded on Friday, but I think Westie overslept or something happened.
Yeah, I decided that 2 a.m. was my bedtime that night, and I may have overslept until 7:30.
I mean, this whole bit actually sounds like a promotion for a charity or something. Like, I'm not. Let's be honest, I'm not that poor, but any help is help regardless. But yeah, the thing is that I recently figured out that I really like doing the things I'm doing right now. So that's basically YouTube and Twitch. More Twitch than YouTube, obviously, because for me it's a lot less time consuming, and I definitely enjoy chat interactions and everything. It just adds to the experience, I guess. But we were on the topic of the co-op season, so are there any particular moments that you can like remember for now without spoiling too much? I mean, probably if people watch this podcast, I'm definitely gonna post it on YouTube afterwards, after it goes live. But maybe they'll forget. So, are there any specific moments that you enjoyed? Like, favorite moments?
Without spoiling it.
Yeah. Like, any race in particular? Like, without going into much details, just name the race or something.
If there's one race I loved, it was Canada.
Yeah, Canada was amazing, definitely.
Canada was amazing. I just couldn't, just trying to keep up and not getting any penalties at all with the field was just fantastic, and it was such a fun race at the end because I should probably stop there and not spoil it, but
yeah,
it
let's leave it on the fact that it was one of the more competitive races we had, and one of the most fun because of it.
Yeah.
So obviously we're not gonna spoil any results, although I did just basically spoil how Monaco turned out, but I mean that was to be expected. We're like, none of us are pros. I haven't played F1 2012 in a while now, because if I played an F1 game, I would normally play F1 2018, I think, or 2017, before 2018 came out. So
they're games that I cannot play on my computer because it's so bad, but I just can't, it's not one of those games that I can really play on here. It's a bit of a shame, but maybe in the future if I have a chance.
Like,
yeah, I want to try and get a PlayStation for when I leave for uni, and that will just probably keep me going, get to 2020 or something.
You know what? Like, a few weeks ago, I was actually thinking, because at the beginning of summer, I actually went out and bought myself a PS4, which I'm also using for streaming games like Crash Team Racing, for example. And I realized that if I want to, I'm definitely enjoying playing PS4 games more than PC, even though PC Master Race and everything. But the thing is that I've been playing PC games for a while now, and it's actually been a while since a PC game just stuck to me, and that I can actually play it in almost the full quality that it offers without having any frame drops, frame lags. And on the other hand, if you buy a game for the PS4, you know it's gonna work because
Oh yeah,
it
100%.
wouldn't be put out. So I was thinking the next F1 game, which is probably gonna be F1 2020, I'm gonna go out and buy it on the PS4 instead of the PC. Plus the fact that Logitech G29 wheel and pedals that I'm using are actually originally meant for the PS4 and not the PC.
I kind of want to.
Means
I
that
kind of want to get GT Sport and hook that up to the G29 because that'd be so much fun.
yeah, my cousin also has GT Sport, and we tried it. It's fun if you can put the hours into it, because you basically start with, I don't know, 2 or 3 cars maybe. But the thing is that I was able to get the car, basically one of my dream cars that I want to have at some point in my life, and that's the Honda Civic Type R, which is a really nice looking car. Like, just the designs of Hondas and everything. If we disregard the fact that Honda messed up McLaren a few years ago,
Yeah.
like, Honda cars are just fabulous, I guess.
Yeah, they're good cars, good Japanese engineering, but
But not for F1.
not for F1 at all. I mean, Toro Rosso, they've got the engines at the minute. Honda as well, not Honda, Red Bull.
Wait,
And
doesn't
they-
Red Bull use Aston Martin?
That's their title sponsor. So they
Oh,
have,
yeah, that's true.
yeah. So they go on Honda engines.
I mean, apparently Honda fixed it, but it's definitely still out of the league with Mercedes and Ferrari at the moment. At least I would say so. Like, when it comes to, I mean, even if we look at Belgium right now, like, sure, Albon did manage to get back into the race from P18 and finish 5th, but he was still way out of the league of both Mercedes and both Ferraris. In qualifying, even Verstappen as well. But
Yeah, it was Ferrari.
it's
Belgium. It was Ferrari's week.
yeah, and
At the
I'd
end.
say that Red Bull is really hit or miss at the moment with their setups and everything. Like, let's actually talk more about F1 now that we're on the topic. Like, we can start with the race yesterday and like everything leading up to it.
Yeah, it
basically,
was a sad weekend.
yeah, it was.
Really sad weekend. If you don't know, or if you haven't seen the news or anything about the Formula One and Spa this weekend, unfortunately on Saturday during the Formula 2 feature race, there was a crash up at Eau Rouge and Radillon, where there were 3 cars involved. One of them was unfortunately Antoine Hubert, who was a Renault. He was a Renault works driver, and he tried to avoid a spinning car who had lost control at Radillon, and hit the barrier and lost control himself, hit the barriers, and then was sideswiped at 170 miles an hour by another car, and unfortunately he lost his life in that accident.
Yep.
What was really sad about it was that he just apparently was at the scene or something like that, but it was an incredibly serious crash, and I don't think anybody could have. I don't think.
Actually, watching it back, like, literally 5 minutes after that happened, people who were in the stands who saw it posted it both on YouTube and Twitter and just shared unconfirmed drama about them both involved in the crash being dead. Like, it wasn't confirmed that he had, like, why would you do that? Like, it was actually pissing me off, and like, it's not something that should be posted right after it happens. Like, okay, if you are like a media platform, or you're posting racing news or something, like, okay, you can post that it happened, but not assume what's the outcome of all of it. And some piece of shit, honestly, went on Wikipedia 15 minutes after the crash and posted that they both died, like basically in their Wikipedia pages. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
That's honestly beyond me.
The thing that I found the most interesting about that, though, was how the F1 drivers reacted, because they were just doing press conferences after qualifying. The F2 began, lap 2, the crash happened. Hamilton was doing an interview to the Spanish media, I think, and he sees the crash. All the press just look at the big screen behind Hamilton, and Hamilton just says, he cuts the interview completely and moves out, which moves out.
which was something that most of the drivers and just people in the world should, in my opinion, look up to, because
I mean, Albon did the same thing as well. He was doing a media thing with Red Bull, and there was a screen behind him, and the journalists all just had shock on their faces, and Albon turned back, looked at it, cut the conference completely. And what I think that's what people should have done. They shouldn't have. Of course, there are going to be images that get posted to social media and stuff. And to be honest, there was one image that really shocked me, and I did look at it, and it was, I will admit to that, and it was of Hubert's car, and it looked like survival cell. So if you don't follow Formula One at all, basically, there's every FIA registered car has to have a survival cell, so that will keep the driver safe, and the driver's legs, and the most torso.
Like, it basically just covers your body in case you like get sideswiped or something, so that at least that bit stays intact, and that's one of the sturdiest parts of an F1 car, I think.
When the impact of the crash happens, when Manuel Carrera, his car hit the side of Hubert's, it pierced the survival cell, apparently. And to be honest, it's understandable, because if you get hit at 170 miles an hour by something that weighs a few tons, it's going to really make some serious damage to that car. And I don't think, when you're coming over that crest, I think when we do it on co-op, F1 cars will take that at 180 miles an hour. And when you're coming over that crest, you're coming over it blind. And if you make a small mistake, you just spin and you're in the wall. An example of that, if you look at it at Kevin Magnussen in 2017.
He was launched on top of the tire barriers, I think.
That was
that was scary by itself. And I remember a couple of years back, the similar thing happened to Rubens Barrichello as well. Like, as he was coming out of the Rouge, he took a little bit too much of the exit curb, and it launched him in the air, and he just landed on top of the tire barriers. And luckily, you can't have people in the stands behind on that side, because that's basically you're inside the circuit, because I think his front wing actually pierced the what's it called?
Survival cell.
Not the survival cell, but the barrier, which is behind the basically like an iron barrier or something that's behind the tires. He managed to pierce that, and if people were behind those stands, there would be at least 6 dead, I think. But
there's a lot of people as you come over Radio on that left hand side. As you go up the hill, there is a stand there, and people were standing there and stood there watching the cars going past on Saturday, and it was a bit the car of Hubert split in two, and it was the rear kind of because it was the rear kind of wheels and the front wheels. They just split the car just split in half.
Yeah,
And
and that was the scary moment. Like, not gonna lie, it actually reminded me of Senna's crash in the 1994 Imola race when he died. Like, the cars were looking scarily similar after the crash, like split in half. Most of the key parts that make it a car were missing. At least, I mean, Senna wasn't upside down, at least. So
I mean, Tamburello at Imola,
yeah,
that's
that's a
back then,
long left-hander, which is a high-speed corner, and you're constantly, like, basically you're constantly accelerating through it. And basically, what happened with Senna back then, if you're not, I guess, a die-hard fan of the F1 and don't know the specifics of it, like, Senna's car was actually, like, they were trying to make an improvement, like make the steering more loose so that he can manage the tight corners around Imola by extending the bar that's holding the steering wheel and connecting it to the wheels. But because they were extending that, the wheel was actually a bit too loose and the bar just snapped when he was turning at around
150, I'd say.
150 kilometers an hour, I think. And
yeah, I think so.
basically the bar snapped under the pressure and he couldn't turn anywhere. And even though he did slam the brakes immediately when that happened, he still ran into the wall and basically a small, I don't know what was it, like a small piece of debris that hit the wall first just snapped off of the car and pierced his helmet, and that's what caused the lethal injury. Like, if his head was like a millimeter more to the left or something at the moment of impact, he would have lived. Like, none of the other injuries were serious or anything, purely because of that, the shape of the cockpit and everything, and the security that was put behind it as well.
And what surprised him was that in Italy, because there's a legal system there, and basically if you have involved in a car accident, well, I wouldn't say it. In Adrian Newey's book, so Adrian Newey, famous designer of F1 cars, he was at Williams in 1994 when the Senna crash happened. He has limited involvement today in F1. He's at Red Bull now, but when he was at Williams, the entire team was sued by the Italians for not adhering safety protocol, and they got charged and they got fined very, very heavily as a team, and it was pretty awful at the time considering it.
And the Williams was a top team as well, like back in the day, and I personally feel like that was, I would say, the start of the downfall for Williams. Like, sure, they still had another decade of, like, maybe not dominant performances, but good performances overall, because later on McLaren was always a top team and still at the time, but also Braun got out, but Ferrari came in, and Ferrari just became, I guess, the face of Formula 1, and like everything was about Ferrari after they joined in 1995, I think. I'm not sure about that. Like, I might be wrong, but
yeah, Braun came with Schumacher in 1995 because 96 because Schumacher won the championship in 95, I believe. I think he won it. Let me have a look.
And 95, I think that was his first championship as a driver for Braun. But later on he made a switch to Ferrari when they were just starting out, and because of his talent and everything, he propelled Ferrari to the top of the F1. And I guess it's still at that era, although when Vettel came out in, I think his first win was in 2008 or 9, I'm not sure, for Toro Rosso around Monza.
Yeah, Vettel did that in 2008.
And he basically showed that he's a promising driver, and that's where it all started. And then, because of his performances for Toro Rosso, he got signed by Red Bull, basically, again, for those of you who don't know, and there has been a case just before the Belgian Grand Prix as well. Red Bull and Toro Rosso are actually somewhat of, I would say, cooperative teams or something, and basically if they see that one of the Red Bull drivers is not performing, they're just gonna switch him for a driver from Toro Rosso. Oh, rip. I mean,
sorry.
I think the recording software should still, like, maybe pick it up. But in any case, if a Red Bull driver doesn't perform, they're just gonna swap him with somebody from Toro Rosso. And between the, I think, 2009 and 2010, he got signed by Red Bull and just went on to win four consecutive titles with Red Bull, and everyone was completely sure that now that's the beginning of a Red Bull era. That Ferrari era was like over, done and dusted. And that Red Bull era did go on for 5 years, I'd say. But then Mercedes came in, and they were just super dominant from 2014 up until now. Like, last year could have been really competitive, but I think Ferrari had everything to win a championship last year, but a combination of, like, individual mistakes. I'm talking about Vettel on Hockenheim last year, when he just, out of nowhere, he was in P1.
Yeah, the rain came. He was on the soft tire.
Yeah, and he just went into the wall. Like, it was still not suitable for intermediate conditions, I think, at the time. But it was starting to get a bit slippery, and he was just supposed to, like, maybe slow down a couple of seconds per lap and just make sure he doesn't lose it until the conditions became suitable for intermediates. And he just went into the wall, race over. And after that, it was just a downfall, a mix of, I would say, team strategists, mishaps.
Well, Hamilton got lucky that day, didn't he? Because he decided to completely miss the pit entry line.
Yeah, he did.
He got punished for that again in Germany this year. Because he didn't. I think it was Bottas. One of the two.
It was actually Hamilton. I remember watching that. Like, Germany was hands down the best race this year, and probably the only interesting one up until that point, because every race for the first half, or at least the most of it, was Mercedes 1-2 in qualifying, Mercedes 1-2 in the race, and Ferrari was nowhere for the majority. And then Leclerc had a couple of stellar performances, like Bahrain, for example, and then a couple of laps before the end, like, he was dominating the whole weekend, and then a couple of laps before the end, the turbocharger, I think, broke or something, and he was just losing a couple of seconds per lap, and it was just a race over for him. I think he finished third in the end, and he had like 20 seconds, a 20-second lead in front of Hamilton, 5 laps before the end, and he just got him in like 2 or 3 laps at most, which was a shame for me, honestly.
I think there was something really interesting that was said on Sky by Christian Horner, and he was saying that now we're coming to the end of these regulations, and the engines and things. Sorry, I've got a Google mind.
That's alright.
But yeah, so is that picking up? Or
Slightly, but it's not interfering.
okay, I'll just move my mic a bit. So yeah, Horner was saying that the engine was starting to come to the end of its development span. So we are soon going to be getting peak performance out of the engines, especially for next year, for 2020. So it's all going to be focused on that aerodynamical aspect of the car. I mean, there was something, I think after that, I think Renault have got they need to improve their engine massively if they want to be competing for that 4th place or even challenging Red Bull. And they've got this, I mean, Renault, it was proven by Norris on the weekend. I don't know if you saw it, but Norris had his engine expire.
Yeah, I remember that. You did cut out slightly, though. And it's still not picking up, I think. Hold on, let me check something real quick.
Oh, sorry, I just muted my mic. That's all.
Okay, there we go.
My sister came in and asked me something.
It's all good.
But yeah, I think Norris he got over the line, but apparently he finished 11th. It was really kind of I didn't understand it why Norris got 11th in the end, but
I think I might have an idea why. Like, it was actually quite lucky that he didn't get a DNF in the end, because normally, also for those of you who are not really into F1, if you're lapped, the race ends for you right after you finish your last lap. Let me rephrase that. Your race ends after you finish the last lap before you started, before the race leader finishes the race. So, for example, if you're driving a 50 lap race and you get lapped, your last lap will be the lap 49 instead of 50, because the race leader is at that time gonna finish the race. And I think he got 11th because Leclerc finished the race right after the guy who was in 11th passed Norris.
Yeah, Norris.
That's my only assumption for that. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but
Norris was recorded as having 43 laps down out of the 44, and he was classified as a 90% of the race distance.
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe it's just that the fact he didn't finish, but he was about to enter the last lap and everything, and he was also about to be lapped. I think they just put him in 11th because that's the first position that doesn't score points in a race, which was, in my opinion, a shame because he had a stellar performance. Like, I would say right now that McLaren is the 4th best team with all the upgrades that they did throughout the year. Like, it was always between them and Renault for me, but now I would shift my focus towards McLaren more than Renault because they had much better performances throughout the year, and I feel like Norris definitely had a great performance throughout the whole weekend, and it's a shame that that happened. He could have finished 50 easily.
I think if we have another crazy race like Germany, I think Norris or Sainz will be on the podium.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, and I think they are going to be big challenges for the kind of the rest of the season for 4th, and they will probably take it.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. but the one thing about Germany, now that we look back in Germany, I had the same, I guess, or at least similar statement about Renault, because Hulkenberg, who has never scored a podium in his entire F1 career, and he's been here for 7 years, I think now, and everyone was promising like Hulkenberg is gonna be a title contender in a couple of years when he gets used to everything, and he just never showed it.
If there's one team I think he'll go to, it will be.
I did hear some rumors that he might be replacing Grosjean on Haas.
Yeah, I think he's going to go to Haas. I think next season, because for the 2021 season, I think those that will be in F1 who will be promoted, I think it will be Chadwick, who won the Women's Series, Brands Hatch recently. She'll go to Williams, and I think Tatiana Calderon will go to replace Kimi Raikkonen.
That's a shout, actually. I mean,
I think
I'm gonna assume that Raikkonen isn't gonna stick for too long, because he is definitely getting old. Like everyone has to call it quits at some point. Like just like Fernando Alonso did at the end of last season. Like one of the bigger drivers in the recent Formula One history, but it was all, I guess, coming down as soon as he left Ferrari for McLaren, and then McLaren just had an abysmal season. Then they, I guess they ended their contract with Mercedes for Mercedes as their engine distributor, and then they went to Honda, and that was one of the worst seasons in my opinion for McLaren, especially taking the fact that Alonso didn't finish more races than he did because of engine failures and everything, and we just started memeing about it.
Yeah, I think,
which is a shame, honestly, for such a great driver to like go out after a huge downfall, I'd say.
I mean, McLaren has failed Alonso repeatedly in the past 5 years. I mean,
that is true.
If you look at him, IndyCar expired on the 180th lap of the Indy 500. Then last year, was it this year? I think this year's Indy 500, his engine expired again, or it wasn't performing as well. No, he didn't qualify. That was it. He got bumped in. He was 34th in qualifying, and because only 33 starters can take the Indy 500 flag, he got bumped by some team that didn't have any sponsors and looking at the edge of collapse. And that was just incredible to see. I mean,
yeah,
he didn't. And then McLaren are thinking, oh yeah, we'll go full time next season. I don't think Alonso will go next season to the McLaren team. I think he'll go elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it only sounds logical for him to go look for something else and something more promising.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did talk about Ferrari having an abysmal season so far and Mercedes completely dominating. We didn't touch on the fact that Red Bull decided to swap Gasly with Albon. Like, what are your thoughts of it? Do you think that maybe Kvyat should have gotten like a second chance, I guess, from Red Bull, or do you think that Albon, being the younger driver who still has like time to both develop his skills and to become more consistent, do you think that he was a better choice than Kvyat, who had already been on Red Bull but failed?
I think whatever happens with any driver move at Red Bull, in that number 2 car, Helmut Marko will always put Verstappen as his golden boy, because that is it happened.
Yeah, because Verstappen has already proven that that he is a driver who has a lot of potential. He's naturally quick.
I think whoever's going to be there at the end of the season, they will always be in Verstappen's shadow, because Helmut Marko will always want to keep Verstappen. It doesn't matter where the interest is going from, Mercedes, Ferrari, even McLaren or Renault. Verstappen is going to be always at the top at Red Bull, and he will always be the top driver, like Vettel was to Webber back in 2013. And Webber was just like, that's at Silverstone qualifying one year, and he was like, not bad for a number 2 driver. And to be honest, it was you could see it very easily how Webber was being cut back, being told, and I understand why he left for what was it, WEC, Porsche, the Porsche setup over there. It was understandable. It was very easy to see why he did it, because he was unhappy with Helmut Marko.
Yeah, like Webber was in Red Bull since 2006, I think. Maybe even earlier. I don't know. Like
he partnered Coulthard at 06, I think.
Yeah, like Webber has been on Red Bull since its earliest days of F1 racing, and then all of a sudden here comes a young and promising driver from the second team, aka Toro Rosso at the time, and he immediately gets promoted to the main driver, and now and Webber is there not so much as a title contender or anything, but as a support to a potential title contender, which is kind of a shame to see that in Formula 1, because you're gonna expect that both of the guys are gonna like try to perform their best and maybe try and go for a shot at getting the title in the end.
I think there were Gasly and Albon. Albon, he deserves that seat. He's been performing brilliantly all year, but
for somebody who has just started out as an F1 driver, like
I think
he's a rookie this season as well.
Gasly, this is the same thing that happened with Gasly. He got promoted too early, and you need another season in the feeder teams to really appreciate Formula 1 for what it is. And when you're running at the back and you're putting in performances that are getting you 10th, 8th, 9th for consecutive races, you're doing yourself good. You're doing a good job, and you deserve a call up to one of these big teams. But when you've got young drivers concerned, it's like in football when you've got scouts and people will go and they'll try and pick the best talent out. Oh yes, you're a good striker, we'll take you on the team, we'll give you a good contract, all these things. In F1 it's the same. When you've got a good driver and you're trying your best to get into the top 10, to get points, to score for your team, that's important. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what team. Well, you need to be scoring points in Formula 1, otherwise you're not going to perform well as a team and not get the prize money the team wants at the end of the year. Anyway, I'm waffling on too much.
Yeah, the thing that you mentioned, that it was maybe too early to pick up Gasly for Red Bull. I kind of have similar expectations. For example, if McLaren does keep Norris for one more year, I think
kept them.
Yeah, and they did. Like if Norris keeps on putting the performances, and if McLaren doesn't pick up the pieces, like if McLaren doesn't reach the top, like make it top 4 instead of the big 3 and then the rest of the field, I honestly feel like Norris could get a shot at bigger teams.
Norris is a good driver, and he can be the next Lewis Hamilton or Jenson Button if he wants to be.
Definitely.
Because
And
he came with McLaren and he's done an absolutely fantastic job
from
in
a
his
team
first.
that was in shambles after the last couple of years.
It's Alonso's out, and then suddenly the car, new engines are in, and suddenly it's all going really well for him, and that's brilliant. And especially as you're beating your engine supplier of Renault,
Yeah,
that's even better.
because
That
the thing
McLaren
is
are on
that
cloud nine. It's brilliant.
in F1, the engine suppliers are always gonna be like their main focus is gonna be um, the team that's from the same branded team. For example, Mercedes is always gonna like be first. Their main focus is always gonna be Mercedes, regardless of if any other team uses Mercedes engines. Same thing for Renault. Like Renault is always gonna be Renault's main focus when it comes to engine upgrades and everything. But um, the thing that I think generally McLaren has one of the best car setups in in the in the championship, and that's what's giving them the edge over Renault. Definitely, in my at least in from my point of view and
I
from
think
what I've seen.
Since they've got Ron Dennis out at McLaren, they've been fantastic. But they don't. With all this like thing where they've brought cars out, supercars and things out onto the market, they're not. It seems as if they're not sure if they're a racing team anymore or they're a supercar manufacturer.
Yeah,
And the thing is, you can bring all these lovely cars out. The 720S. I'm thinking 520. I'm not sure these days, but all these lovely cars, and yet they're not performing as an F1 team where they should be and where they've been all these years. And it's just sad to see because they could be the fourth team, that extra addition, that team that can challenge the top three, and they deserve it if they do, because to break into those three teams who are spending 400 million a year on a car that's challenging for titles, it's a big thing. It's a big step up for McLaren to try and challenge, and to be honest, they need to do it now before when the regulations come out in October.
yeah. We've been rambling about F1 for quite some time now. So
It's been fun though. It's been fun.
yeah, it definitely has. And the more I plan these podcasts and like just typing the topics in a text file on my PC, like it's always been, are we gonna have enough topics to like fit at least an hour long show? And now we've been going for, I'd say, an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half maybe even, and there's still topics to cover. So I guess we should just move on. The next thing I wanted to talk about and mention were the Champions League and the Europa League draws that happened last week. So
Yeah.
I
So
guess
I've got
we can start with the Champions League. Like, the main idea is to like just go through all the groups, maybe elaborate on who do we think our, I guess, playoff contenders could be, and
I've got them up here now.
yeah, same.
So Group A, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Club Brugge, and Galatasaray. Now that's an interesting group.
Definitely
PSG
is.
and Real
Like,
Madrid
I
will
would
sail
still
through.
I would still say that both PSG and Real Madrid could definitely come out on top. It just depends on the day when they play each other and all the goal differences and everything. But I still feel like maybe Real Madrid could come out on top of that group. But I mean, there's basically no question which one of them is gonna come out on top in the end. Like, not which one of them is gonna come out, but for any of the other teams to get into top two, because I feel like those PSG and Real Madrid are just one league above the rest of the group.
I mean, PSG are like Man City in a way. They're really hunting for that first Champions League title. Well, they're not the first, but for a European trophy.
Yeah.
And I think they may do it here. I think they're going to be big contenders of the season, but they've got to get that top spot for the round of 16, so they've got a way forward. But Real Madrid, they're also in that same situation. They've had poor form under Zidane so far, but they've been okay. Bale was their saviour last night, and the two other teams, Club Brugge and Galatasaray, that'll be interesting. I think both of those teams know that they've got to get Europa League football if they want to do well in Europe this season.
Yeah, so
Club
basically,
Brugge, especially Club Brugge, they can do really well for represent Belgium if they want to.
yeah. Basically, my point of view on the Group A is gonna be two competitions actually. One is gonna be who is gonna get the higher seed in the round of 16, and the other one is gonna be who is gonna get the Europa League spot between Club Brugge and Galatasaray. But we'll see. Honestly, my main man to watch in the first competition, let's say, is gonna be Modric. Like, one, of course, I'm Croatian. Modric is Croatian, and I'm kind of biased, but I would say that Modric has the ability to be one of the MVPs of the team. Like, especially after the last year.
Yeah, I think my player of that Group A would be Neymar or Mbappe, because they've got to really pull their finger out here. If they want to do well in that group, they've got to really do well. And it's just one of those things which, PSG and Real Madrid, they're two clubs, and they're two big clubs. They both want Europe really badly, because they can do a cakewalk in their leagues with the league title. They don't have to lift a finger. And it's always been the Champions League that I think Madrid, they want to get back perhaps Ajax after Ajax knocked them out last season. PSG, they want to as a Man United fan, I'd say last season they want to get back at us, but we're in the Europa League, so we can't do anything about that. But yeah, I think that group will be very interesting. There's two different fights going on, and most importantly, yeah, I think that's it for that one.
Yeah. So for Group B, we have Bayern Munich, Tottenham Hotspur, Olympiacos, and Red Star Belgrade. Honestly, I see this as like I feel like they're gonna finish the same way they're seeded right now.
Yeah,
The only switch that could happen in the end is Tottenham being above Bayern, but I'm not too sure about that. Like outside of English clubs, Bayern is my favorite, and it's been for a while. Again, because of the Olic bias, back when he was still playing there.
I think Bayern will do well.
Yeah.
Lewandowski has got to do really well for them.
Obviously, Lewandowski hasn't had the best club/national performances lately.
Well, he's declining a bit. He is declining. I think they've brought in Perisic on loan. They've got who else? They brought Coutinho in as well.
Yeah.
I think Bayern will top that group.
Yeah.
They've got to top that group.
Definitely.
No way that I don't think Tottenham. They've lost 14 of their last something games. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Tottenham
have just crumbled basically. At least I feel like they did.
I mean, there's some hard ties in there as well. Olympiacos and Red Star Belgrade. Belgrade, of course, I think beat Liverpool last season, and then
there's always rooms for upsets. There's no denying that, but in the long run, especially since it's what's the name of the format? Double round robin, I think. where
yeah,
you have to where you have to play each team twice, and here it is once away and once at home. And I feel like Red Star could take a couple of games off of the other three, but not too much, or not anything like
if they do, it'll
that
be
could
Europa League
impact.
worthy.
Yeah, especially if they beat Olympiacos, but we'll see about that.
Okay, Group C, we've got Man City.
Yeah, Group C, which is gonna be one of the more
Yes.
interesting for my
City.
situation.
Shakhtar, Dinamo Zagreb, and Atalanta. Now, I'm thinking here that Atalanta can break through into the round of 16.
For me personally, I would hope that for once Dinamo could actually do something in the Europe, especially after that last year's Europa League performance where they almost actually took out, who was it?
Dortmund,
No, it wasn't Dortmund. It's a Portuguese team.
Benfica.
Yeah, Benfica. Exactly. Also, my lighting all messed up once again.
Yeah, I think
fix that real quick.
City have got the best group there. I think if they want to progress.
Yeah, I feel like City is gonna be uncontested in the group, like at least for the top spot. Maybe they could lose a couple of points to other three teams, but I'm not too sure about that either.
I think that'll finish City, Atalanta, Zagreb, and Shakhtar.
For
Shakhtar,
me,
Shakhtar, I don't really
I
rate.
haven't seen a lot of Shakhtar lately. Like I know that they used to be quite a competitive team back like 5 or 6 years ago, but lately I haven't seen much of them, so I can't really tell. And I feel like it could be more of a competition between Dinamo and Atalanta for the second spot, and if Dinamo was to actually go through, that would be a huge breakthrough for them, honestly, because they never progressed into the second round of Champions League. Like they barely got through last year in the Europa League, and they almost made a huge upset as well. Like that was hands down their best European performance up to date.
Yeah. Okay, Group D. Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, and Lokomotiv Moscow. I think that's self-explanatory as well. It's a bit like
Yeah.
Group A. Madrid will probably... I think Madrid will top that group.
Yeah, I think so too. At least if Juventus can't like maybe improve. I heard some stuff about their offense and that Mandzukic actually wanted to make a change and go to, I think it was actually Manchester United. But
When was that?
but because there were apparently some issues regarding the offense. I mean, I can kind of see what the problem was. Like, I'm not sure if the Juventus lineup is still the same, but last year it was Ronaldo, Dybala, and Mandzukic, which are
yes.
all three stellar strikers. And of course, once a striker like Ronaldo comes in, the main focus is gonna be on him. And Mandzukic has been on Juventus for a while now, and he's had great performances as well.
I think my player of Group D is going to be João Felix of Atletico Madrid.
That's a shout.
He's been absolutely incredible in pre-season, and I think he's going to be the breakthrough star of this year because he's got that little kind of magic touch. He's a bit like Messi back in 2007, 2008.
Yeah, in his early days.
And that he's just got that lightning quick reaction. He'll just pounce on a ball and score. Bayer Leverkusen, I think they will be Europa League,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Lokomotiv, I have no chance for them as well, unfortunately as well.
Again, there could be room for upsets, but nothing stellar, all in all.
Group E, Liverpool.
My most interesting group.
Liverpool, Napoli, Salzburg, and Genk. That is a big group, especially for Salzburg. I think they can break through and beat Napoli.
Yeah,
But
they could do so.
there's a big
I
but
mean,
because they've got
I would
Napoli
say
have got a strong squad.
I would say, like, I might be a bit biased, but I still feel like Liverpool is gonna top the group without
Without
much
question, they will
yeah,
top that group.
without much contention. But
Napoli beat
and that
Liverpool last season, I
Genk is
think.
gonna be last. At least I feel like they should be taken into consideration the environment and that the Belgian clubs aren't really at the top of Europe or near the top. But
Yeah.
then again, Red Bull or Napoli, I feel like, let me check when do they play each other. If they're playing each other twice.
Well, my player of Group E is going to be Hirving Lozano of Napoli because he's signed from PSV in the summer. He's an interesting right winger. He was a target for Man United, and I wanted him to join. He was a good player, but he joined Napoli instead because of interest. Just fizzled out on him, and I think he'll be the key player for Napoli. I don't think Koulibaly or any of those players will probably match him. He's going to be the key performer for them. Liverpool, I don't want to rate any Liverpool players. That's just Man United bias.
I mean, for myself as a fan of Liverpool, especially after what we've seen Liverpool do to Barcelona last year in the semifinals of the Champions League, I would say that literally any of the players on Liverpool could pop off at any given time and just basically carry the game. Because when you look at the attacking line, the Mane, Firmino, Salah, all of them are great strikers, and any of them could pop off. Especially in my opinion, Mane has been great lately with all the touches, assists, passes, and he still scores goals. Then
I think Liverpool have made a big risk by not signing anyone this summer, and I think, well, they signed Harvey Elliott and Sepp van den Berg. I think they're youth players, but Liverpool are just going to go the same this year, and if they can reach the final, I'd be very surprised if they
they
did.
basically only changed the goalkeeper this year,
Okay.
which is interesting.
Yeah, Group F: Barcelona, Dortmund, Milan, and Prague. That's a big group.
Yep.
That was like, well, watching the draw, that was an insane group. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that one. I don't think Slavia Prague did either.
Yeah, it's really stacked, and then we got Slavia.
And I think Barcelona and Milan will go through. Milan, based on their additions of Sanchez and Lukaku from United. Not that I don't think they're going to do well, but not too well.
Yeah, for me,
on that.
this is gonna be a competition between Borussia and Inter.
Dortmund are very interesting though, because they've got Royce, Sancho. They've also got Pascal Sasa up front. Hummels has returned as well. Big news for them. Solid centre back. But Prague, they probably won't win a game in that. I feel really
Yeah.
bad for them. But,
Same, because even though those three teams are all in different pots, they're all still teams that can perform really well on any given day, especially at home. I feel like there could be upsets, but not for Prague, unfortunately.
okay, Group G. Zenit, Benfica, Lyon, and Leipzig. Now,
Honestly, I feel like this group is way. Um, I would say this is way lower rated than the rest of the Champions League. Like, this is a much weaker group for me, I'd say.
I think Lyon and Benfica will go through.
Yep, I can agree with
Or
that.
maybe Leipzig challenging Benfica, but I don't think Zenit will go through. Zenit was one of those teams where I thought, looking at the pots, and when they got drawn out of pot one, I thought, really? It's not.
Yeah,
You're not going to have a competitive group.
That's
It's just
what
a
I
bit-
was wondering as well. Like, having Zenit in the first pot is already something that a lot of people could question, but whatever, honestly. But
Yeah.
I feel like there's not much to talk about this group. Like, Benfica and Lyon are for me obvious favorites, but we'll see.
Best player in that group, I'd say, was Memphis Depay. No, not because he played for Man United once at all. I think he is just the best player of that group because um, he will probably do a really good job there. Yeah, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that, but
I mean, to be honest, a couple of years back, I haven't been too much into, like, I haven't followed all the leagues. I guess, followed Liverpool, Bayern, those teams that I've always enjoyed watching, and I always will, probably. But, I mean, if there is a standout talent on a team, I might know him, but not on these teams, at least.
okay, let's move on to Group H. So Group H, we got Chelsea, Ajax, Valencia, and Lille.
This
It's
could
another
be
one of those-
interesting. Like,
This is going to be a very interesting group because any
my
of those
eyes are on
teams-
Ajax here.
Ajax will probably top that group. Chelsea it's a big gamble for them because they won the Europa League. Sarri left for Juventus. They've lost Eden Hazard and they've now had to rely on big youth prospects such as
Is, in my
Tammy
opinion, the
Abraham,
biggest
Mason
loss
Mount.
for Chelsea. So
but Valencia.
I wouldn't put them as high as they
Valencia,
might
no.
have been with Hazard.
Valencia and Lille can definitely challenge for that second place spot. Ajax are definitely going to top that group, without question.
I'm not gonna
mine-
I'm not gonna jump on the Ajax train just yet, because just because they had a stellar run last year, finishing third/fourth after taking down many great teams who were supposed to be like top contenders. I think it was Real Madrid, Tottenham, I think, was there as well, or maybe even Manchester City. I'm not sure, or maybe City went through Tottenham. I can't remember really.
I think standout player of that group will be. It's a difficult one.
Yeah, it is
I think
definitely.
the standout player of that group will be Hakim Ziyech, he was right winger for Ajax.
Yep.
Performed fantastically last in the Champions League and in the Eredivisie. Okay, should we move on to the Europa League?
Just to like maybe give a final thought on the Group H.
Oh yeah, okay.
If we compare it to like Group G, there's nothing special about it. Then you got Group H, in which, in my eyes, anyone can go through. Just like if the Ajax run was a fluke, that's why I'm not jumping to conclusions just yet regarding them. Like, I still feel like they're gonna go through, but I wouldn't be too sure just yet. I want them to prove it first by maybe like winning against Chelsea or Valencia. Like, that would be a huge bonus for them as well. As for the rest, don't mess it up and they can go through, basically.
Who is your Champions League winner then?
Not biased at all, but Liverpool. Like, I feel like that they could maybe win it all again, but my eyes are definitely on PSG, Manchester City. I really want to see what's gonna happen with Juventus this season. Like, they could go far, but I don't see them as maybe winners. Oh,
I think
of
it'll
course
be
there's Liverpool.
Juventus and Barcelona.
Really?
I think Juventus or Barcelona will take it. Barcelona mainly because they've had some good additions in the summer.
That's
Frankie
true
de
as
Jong.
well.
They've brought in Griezmann as well. That's a big signing for them. And they've got good backup on the bench through Ousmane Dembele, Busquets. They've still got the old players, but
Yeah, they do, but it still seems to work.
and its reliability, and that's the Barcelona model, which is fantastic. It's worked for years, and yeah, I think that's Barcelona, Juventus. Those two teams, I think, will reach the final, and whoever one of those will probably.
Imagine the
And-
Liverpool versus Dinamo final.
That'd be an insane final.
That would
You would
that
know
would be a
it's sport.
meme. That would definitely be a meme. But I think we can move on to Europa League now as well.
Okay, if we've got time. I mean, I've not got long, but yeah.
I mean, we can just maybe take a look at if there's an interesting group, any group that interests you in particular.
So Group A: Sevilla, Apoel, Karabag, and Dudelange. Dudelange, I think it's that.
I think
About Ashley Cole.
personally, I feel like Sevilla and Apoel should be through.
Yep, I'd agree with that. Group B: Dynamo Kiev, Copenhagen, Malmo, and Lugano.
Here, I feel like it's gonna be between Copenhagen and Malmo.
I'd agree
for
with
the
that.
second spot.
Dynamo Kiev, I think they top the group though. I
Yeah.
think it'd be Kiev and Malmo in that one. Group C: Basel, Krasnodar, Getafe, Trabzonspor.
My eyes will be on Getafe, definitely, but I feel like Basel should be through.
I think Basel and Getafe
Yeah,
be going through on that
could
one.
agree with that.
Group D: Sporting, Eindhoven, Rosenborg, and Lask.
PSV should top it, I think. And then
I think PSV will top that. Sporting will.
be second.
Group E: Lazio, Celtic, Rennes, and Cluj. Now, this one was very interesting because Celtic and Cluj met in the Champions League qualifying stage, and Cluj beat them with an extra time goal. I think Lazio will definitely top that group, and Rennes will come second. Celtic and Cluj, I don't think will be too in on it, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, you know,
Definitely.
who do you think is going to go through in that one?
I've got Lazio and Celtic, honestly.
Okay. Group F: Arsenal, Frankfurt, Liège, and Victoria de Guimaraes. I can't pronounce that one. Guimaraes?
I honestly I don't know.
All right.
But, I see
Frankfurt-
Arsenal as a clear top, right?
I
would
think
say.
Frankfurt can top it. Arsenal
Really?
will.
That's a shout.
Yeah.
But I definitely
Frankfurt will
got
top it,
Frankfurt and
Arsenal
Arsenal as the top two. We'll see. Maybe we will see an upset or something. Who knows?
Okay. Group G: Porto, Young Boys, Feyenoord, and Rangers. That's quite a competitive group.
Yeah, it is.
Uh,
I've got Porto to top it.
Porto's
but
top
I'm
of me
really,
too.
I'm really not sure about the rest.
Feyenoord's difficult because Feyenoord are a good squad.
Yep.
Young Boys can challenge. They nearly beat Juventus last season. I think they did in the Champions League. Rangers are in good form in the Scottish League, and they've got some good backup as well. I think it will be Rangers second.
I could see that.
Okay. Group H: Seska, Ludogorets, Espanyol, and Ferencváros.
Or as my neighbors would say, Ferencváros.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
bad. It's by English.
it's okay. It's okay.
Uh, the Cesca and Espanyol.
Yeah, probably.
Group I.
I mean, after what I've seen from Ferencváros after they played Dinamo earlier, like I could see that they could compete, but not maybe on the level for top two. All right, let's move on.
VfL Wolfsburg, Ghent, and Saint Etienne and Alexandria.
Honestly, Wolfsburg and Ghent, I would say. Maybe Saint Etienne could.
Saint Etienne, I think, can break through.
Yeah, it would require an upset in my opinion, but we'll see.
Group J, Roma, Mönchengladbach, Basaksehir, Wolfsberger AC.
I feel like putting Roma and Mönchengladbach would be like a safe
I'm going
prediction.
with them as well. Besiktas, Braga, Wolves, and Slovan Bratislava.
My eyes will be on Wolves, honestly.
I think Wolves can do well. They can qualify very easily in that group.
Yeah.
But Besiktas will top that for sure, in my opinion. Experience in Europe, Wolves has not had European football for a long, long time.
Yeah.
There, in that Wolves squad, there are experienced internationals and people who have played in the Champions League and Europa League before. You know, Rui Patricio, Ruben Neves. Those types of players, they can make the difference for Wolves.
Yeah, definitely.
Group L, my favourite group, of course.
Shocker.
Manchester United, Astana, Partizan, and AZ Alkmaar.
I'm gonna make a safe prediction and put United on top. And
I'd agree with that.
then I feel like AZ maybe in second. Not sure though.
I was going to say Astana because I think Astana can do it. They've got Champions League football behind them in recent years, and I think AZ
That is true as well.
AZ third. I'm not sure. They've got Astana and Man United both have got European football behind them, and I think that will probably help them in their Group L qualification quest.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, who's your winner of the Europa League then?
To be completely honest, I'm not quite sure just yet. I'll have to maybe like watch a couple of matchups, but I feel like either Arsenal or Manchester United could take it, but it's still all out in the open. Like a lot of things can happen throughout the season.
I'm going to go on a wing and say Roma or Porto.
That could also I can see that happening as well. Like Roma has been on the top of, I guess, European football, or near the top at least, for a while now, and Porto has won the Europa League previously.
Was that Mourinho 2003, I think?
There was a more recent one as well, I think. Like it was a final between Porto and Benfica, I think. And
2009, I think. I'm not sure.
could
There was
be.
one.
I'm not sure either, but I know that it happened recently, and as I said, I'm gonna have my eyes on both of those teams as well. And I feel like those teams could go for top 4, honestly. We'll see.
Okay, alright.
Okay, so I guess we can then move on. I multitasked a bit, and I had a look at the questions I guess kind of made up before I told you were gonna that I would like you to co-host a podcast with me, and we actually managed to cover it all without asking too many questions.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if we can maybe move on to the questions
Yep, sounds
From-
good to me.
that you sent me earlier that you got. So, we're basically just gonna talk about these questions for like. It's not gonna be a set of quick questions, I would say, but still, we're gonna we're both gonna elaborate on it, maybe discuss it a bit. It's gonna be a bit shorter than the previous ones. So, first question: Footballcraft or Evo Ball? I think we actually managed to talk about it earlier as well, because although the plugin worked the same, shots were a bit buffed on Evo Ball, and it was quite interesting. But I would personally still go with Footballcraft purely because I'm a goalkeeper and I know how annoying it is to get pinged, because buffing the shot power doesn't exclude pinging, and didn't fix the only thing that was broken in my opinion.
I'm going to have to say neither on that question. We've always been a community, and I think
Exactly. When we're
wherever
talking
server
about
we go,
yeah, when we talk about communities, like it's the same community basically, and wherever most people were, we were there as well. Like it was never an issue that one was better than the other. Okay,
Yeah.
second, what do you make of RCDF's recent performances?
now we've been in the league this season. We've had 4 games so far, or 6 actually, maybe 7. Yeah, 6 games I think, and we've won 3, lost 3, and it's been a bit of a difficult start. But we had a cup because they've changed the cup now, so you have it as like a kind of like Champions League style in a way. And we topped our group, won both games in that cup, and then
I mean, I personally can't really elaborate on that because
yeah,
I haven't been following
too
too
much.
much later.
yeah.
Okay, next
in the
one.
league- Oh, sorry, go on.
I mean, if you wanted to say something else about the topic, go on.
Yeah, I was just about going to add because I got interrupted by my family again because they want me out for some reason. But not at the minute. So yeah, in the league we had 2 losses on the first opening day. We didn't really have. We've been a bit hit and miss with certain things. And then last weekend this weekend actually, we were unsure as to whether we were going to have key players because of the hurricane over in America at the minute. Rob, we didn't know if he was going to be there or not. He came, luckily, but we won 1 game but lost the other, unfortunately. It's been a bit of a shame, really. To put that into words, it's a bit of a shame. And to anyone out there who follows us a bit, we'll try and pick up the results if we can. But please do not expect anything of us. We will do our best on the pitch if we can.
Alright. Next up, are gingerbread houses made of flesh or are gingerbread men made of brick? What? Like, is that even a question or?
I'm considering that as well. I don't even know if some of these questions are a bit random. I
Okay.
don't mind.
Here's my honest opinion and my honest answer. Yes. Okay.
I agree. I agree.
Would you like to move on? Is Joe
Yep, I'm happy with that.
the GOAT of FBC?
In keepers, yes.
That's a
in
topic for. Well, thank you for your honest opinion. All right.
I think Joe is the GOAT of FBC in the goalkeeper position.
Yeah, but definitely not outside. Like, my votes would be either on Hard Goal because he set the meta back in the day, or Speedy because he was dominant in multiple positions. He started off as a midfielder and was fairly solid, and then moved back to goalkeeping. And I remember back when I was one of the top goalkeepers on FBC as well, people were calling me out because I just got overtaken, I guess, in the race for the Golden Glove of the season by somebody who randomly decided to play goalkeeper and was apparently better than me. And he managed to keep it consistent as well. And like, I was starting to get annoyed because people were, I guess, in calling me out in a rude manner, kind of. But that was just the mentality of FBC back in the day. Like, it was all banter, but I took it personally, of course.
If I was to field a team of basically the 4 best players on FBC for each position,
Across
Joe would go
all
in goal.
time. Yeah,
Across
could
all the
see
5
that.
years, I'd say Joe in goal.
Then I would
In
put Adzi or Sof as a defender, actually.
Sof as a defender, I would put in there as well. Where would be the centre mid.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Him and in attack, either hard gold or super for me.
Heart gold for me. I don't think without question Heart gold will be in there.
I have more arguments towards hard gold as well, but both have been both have been Pingus, honestly, at least for me. And
the thing is that players, they don't know who he is, what he's like.
Hard gold was basically mechanically the best player on FBC, like for the first couple of years, and I would say that he carried Nemesis FC to the title in Season 2 back when I started playing.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Because back then there was a team also called Golden Waffle, which was on paper the best team because they had better players in all positions. They had JF, who was and I'm gonna assume he still is pretty good goalkeeper. They had Limo in the midfield, I think, or maybe even in the striker position, but without going too much into detail because I don't remember all the details, they had on paper the best team there, and then there was Nemesis FC, and they made an upset in the finals of the season. Like, it was one of the bigger moments for Hard Gold, I would say, in the FBC history, and just the fact that he was able to single-handedly set the meta and like figure out how to dribble, how to shoot consistently, how to be quick with your movements and everything. That was just impressive for me.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay. Next question. I'm still a Burberry confused as to what you do online. Do you make YouTube videos? So that's actually the question that got me wondering if those questions were aimed at me, you, or both of us, because
I think both of us for that one. That one's a one for both of us, really. I think I'd say.
I guess
both of us can answer that.
You want to go first, or?
Well,
because I've been wondering about that as well.
Like, I don't make YouTube videos anymore, unfortunately, but I kind of, so after something that happened in January, if you know, it was my 5-year thing on YouTube, and I did something, did a video. A lot of people backlashed it, and it was just horrible for me to kind of go through it, and I kind of went down a downward spiral from there. It wasn't the best thing, but I kind of just, you know, I didn't do anything else from there. It was a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I can also elaborate on that. Like, maybe you are enjoying something that you do, but others either don't appreciate it or they're just not interested in that. For example, when I started streaming, for me it was really hit or miss because although I did get better as time went on, but in reality, I would say for myself that I'm kind of shy, I would say, and it's a bit hard for me to just randomly start speaking especially in English since it's not my native language. But the more I got used to it, it definitely got easier. But that's not the point here. The thing is that when I just started, like, I was getting criticized in school as well because, of course, where am I gonna advertise myself first then to my friends in school? And it was like, you know, the gameplay quality isn't the best. Then your commentary is kind of meh because you either don't talk at all, or when you do talk, it's either nonsense or something.
I
But
think a lot of people, when I did the same thing as you, and to be honest, I don't blame you for doing it, because the closest people to you, your audience, it's very hard on the internet these days to kind of get yourself out there, because there are so many other people that are doing the same thing. And you could have an audience of about 100 people, or a market of 100 people, like I do. I use things such as Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram to try and
same
get
thing.
people to
Yeah.
try and watch content. Like I'll do this today, and it will be, and some people will watch, some people won't, and that will be what it will be. But
But
YouTube is difficult,
yeah,
and
because
people do not understand how hard it is to start unless you do it yourself. And the people that are taking up and giving up their time to make the content are the most important people probably of that video that's coming out. And there will be backlash and there will be comments that you will receive. Anybody out there that is planning on doing any content creation or anything like that, there will be backlash, and you just got to move on, and you got to keep going and do it.
Criticizing on internet is something that's quite common lately, especially after the rise of YouTube, I would say. But the thing is that you can't. There's just no way you can please everyone with your content. You can just work your hardest to try and please the most of the people you can. And also one thing about that is, what was I gonna say? That there is definitely a lot of effort put into everything. So before you criticize anyone for what they're doing, just think of, is your critique, is it constructive? Can the content creator learn something from it? Is that some sort of advice, or are you just being rude? Like, being rude to people is not gonna help anyone improve in whatever they're doing. So just be patient with everything. Same thing I can do for myself. Also, a lot of people have told me that me posting on Instagram and Twitter is a bit of a sellout, but to begin with, that was the point of making those accounts. Like, you can't succeed if you don't sell out at some point or somehow. For example, how am I supposed to, if once I do get an audience, and I was lucky that with my Tomb Raider playthrough I managed to do so, at least slightly. It propelled me a bit, and I met a couple of people who keep coming back every week, or at least every Sunday, to like watch what I'm doing, what I'm playing, maybe chat for a while, and then I would do the same. And I would go back, if they're streaming, I would watch their streams as well. And how am I supposed to like let them know that I'm gonna go live? Or if somebody just found out about me but joined way too late in the stream, I was about to end it and everything, but he would like to come back. Like, following me on social media allows you to like stay updated when I'm going live and everything. That's the same for literally every content creator, whether it's a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, everyone. So of course, if you have any like I would say good critique regarding me, my YouTube content, my Twitch streams, especially my Twitch streams because that's my main focus, um, let me know. I'll try to work on it. I'll learn something from it. Just don't be rude, and I would really appreciate it. The same thing
Yeah.
as Westie did with gathering all those questions. He actually like wrote a short story or something like what's going on, what's that for, and everything. And he also mentioned it earlier in the podcast at some point.
Yeah, it's about gathering. If you have an audience and you got people you can pitch to, you can draw on a few views. It's a good thing, and people coming to watch your content, even if it's just for a minute, we appreciate it any time. You know, even if you don't watch the whole video, I mean, we don't mind. You've come and you've had a good time.
Because again, at the end of the day, that's the most important when you're putting out content of every kind. Like, I would put Twitch streamers and YouTube and YouTubers into. I guess I would say they are comedians / entertainers. That's what they're doing. Why they're putting out content, because it's there to entertain people more than anything else. But I guess we can move on as well now. We've been babbling about that too much. What moment / person made you start supporting Manchester United? I'm gonna assume that that's a question for you, but I can elaborate on that and talk about what made me a Liverpool fan as well.
My first experience supporting Manchester United was, I was about the 2009 Champions League final. So we won it the year before, and we went into the final playing Barcelona, and it was a good game. I think that one we lost 2-0, but it was just really impressive to watch players like Rooney, Ronaldo. Ji-Sun Park. He had, it was a proper Ferguson team back in 2009.
I actually remember that roster.
And I watched that at my grandparents' house, and that was just something that I really enjoyed. And since then, I just really enjoyed it. It was really fun to watch them. Obviously, not these days because we're not doing so well, but it's it's a good memory.
But then again, everyone has their ups and downs, so Manchester United is no exception. For me and Liverpool, I would say that there are two aspects of that. One of it, and probably the main aspect, is that my older cousin is a Liverpool fan as well, and he's been watching Liverpool since, I don't know, since I was a kid, basically, since as far as I can remember. And basically whenever we would sit down and play FIFA or PES or anything back in like 2010 when PES was still good, I remember that he would usually pick Liverpool. Back then I was like still undecided if I still want to support Dinamo, because Dinamo was the closest club to me, at least back then, because I didn't watch too many leagues abroad from Croatia. And the other aspect has to be when I was a bit older than that. I decided to go back and watch the Champions League final back in, what year was that? 2005 or 6? The Milan versus Liverpool.
That was 05.
Yeah, 2005, when Milan was 3-0 up at halftime, and then Liverpool turned it around and won it in penalty shootout. Like, just seeing that. Plus, there were a couple of names, especially in 2010. There were Torres, Gerrard, Carragher, Pepe Reina in net. Like, they were they were actually the first players that I memorized. Like I knew the 2009 2010 um, Liverpool roster. I had it in my memory before any other roster, and it went from there, I guess. Um, Next question: would you plan on meeting Francois soon? What?
Yep, I'd be very interested to meet Francois.
For those of you who don't know, Francois is a football craft player, and
He's basically
he
on an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Okay, I must have missed out on something apparently, but I guess we could save that for another podcast or something. But it would be fun,
Yep.
like literally meeting anyone you meet online. Just meeting them in person would be a big experience, I'd say. Like that's how I met a couple of friends in Zagreb who were on the Evo League CS:GO team back when Evo League existed, when we were just expanding and everything. But again, that's a topic for a different podcast. So it is possible to meet people you met online in real life, and it's one hell of an experience, and I would recommend it to everyone. And
Just be careful though.
yeah, just make sure that you're good friends, that you're good online friends before you go on and meet in person. At least if it's a long distance friendship, I would say. And the last question, fun fact about you, like literally anything.
I have a square head.
That is indeed a fun fact. For myself, okay, this is actually a bit of a shower thought, I would say. Um, Literally a shower thought, because I realized that the last time I took a shower, but for no particular reason, I always wipe my right armpit first. I don't know why. Okay,
Okay,
and
that's actually quite interesting.
yeah, it's not a useful information, but I just realized that. Like usually people would first wipe their heads and everything, but the thing for me is I usually, after wiping my head, a lot of hair falls out. Yeah, I might be balding, rip. But and that's probably one of the reasons why I wipe my head last. But I don't know why exactly my right armpit. I don't know. Even before my hands are still wet, but my right armpit is nice and dry. Alright, I think that we covered most of, at least, maybe not everything, but most of the things that I had in mind, and this has gone on for a while now. So I guess we can wrap this up finally. I might even split
Yep.
it in two parts when posting on YouTube, but it will be posted on YouTube as well. So yeah, obviously we were having a hard time just figuring out when we could stream it, so we decided to pre-record it. But I will definitely be in chat, just answering questions when this will be live. But to wrap this up,
Okay.
anything you want to say as a final thought on everything?
Well, thank you very much for having me on. It's been lovely. Absolute privilege to be on here. And if you're coming from my social media things, please give Panda some love. He's a good guy, and he deserves a lot. Feel free to follow him on Twitch, subscribe to him on YouTube, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But thank you very much.
Okay,
It's a
and
pleasure.
definitely make sure to follow Westie on his social medias, his Twitter at ewest_22 and Instagram ewest.22. And thank you for tuning in to another Pretzel podcast. And I hope I'll see you this weekend for more games. And until then, stay awesome, have a wonderful time, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.